In this video, I am going to show a number of ways in which we can keep our repositories clean. And also there is a number of ways in which our repositories can get contaminated with things that we don't want. So for the different types of contamination, we may need different solutions. So let's start by explaining what I have here. So I have a very simple Git repository. Let's do a git log. Just for synthesis, let's see only one line of the log. And let's also show all branches. So here it is. I have a very simple repository with a very simple history. The latest commit is the only commit. I'm standing on the branch master, and it looks like the previous commit, all it did is add a new file inside a folder called folder, and the file is called file.txt. So let's do ls to see if that really corresponds to what we see. Indeed, we do see a folder. We could see also a bit more of the structure of this repository with tree. And here it is. So we have, this one folder and this one file. That's all we have. So, because I will start, I want to kind of embrace best practices. The first thing I'm going to do is to create a new branch to start exploring some feature. So let's do git. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Sorry. So let's first clean what I did. So I go back to the top of this terminal with Control L. I clear what I had, and this moved me to the top. So let's do a git checkout of a new branch. Let's call it explore. Git checkout -b, because I not only want to check out a branch, but I want to create it, right? So create it and then check it out. That's why the previous command failed. So check out -v, that will create the branch, and the name of the branch is going to be explore, which is what I was trying to do. So there you go. So if I do a git log now of one line and all branches, you can see that both branches are pointing to the exact same commit. I just created a new branch so I can start exploring. So this is the first way kind of I introduced in this video to keep the history of a repository clean. When you want to explore something, you just create a new branch and you see when you can start playing. In any case, if you're ready to merge what you did in that exploration branch with the main line of development, you can just do a git merge. So let's start playing a little bit with this branch and maybe creating some contamination sources that we want to clean. So let's clear this console up again with Control L or with the command clear. That also does the same thing. So let's say that we add a new file to the folder. So remember the structure of this repo was this. So let's create a new file called A. So let's touch folder a.txt. So I created that file called A. So here it is. Let's do a git status. Let's call for a short status. So this file A is appears as untracked. That's why we have the question mark icon there. So Git still doesn't know anything about that. So let's say that we decided that this file, we actually don't want it at all. So one way to clean the working tree, which is what we have in our file system before it has been committed, could be with the command git clean. So let's do that. Git clean. So if I run that, probably I will get a message. Yes, because git clean has to be used with some of these flags. So you can force the git clean. You can do an N to see what it could happen, but not do it. Or you can use the -i flag, which is to do it interactively. So let's use that -i, and now we get this interface to decide what we want to do. So with the number 1, we say that we actually want to clean this file, right? So it is asking us, could you remove that? This command could remove the following item, folder a.txt. So okay, let's say that we do want to remove that. So we say 1 and it should be gone. So if I do a git status again, there should be nothing to show, and the tree of this repo should look as it was before. So, okay, that's one way to go about that. But what if, I want to have this file in the working tree, but not in the commit in the Git repository? So let's redo that command. So we can do git, actually it was a touch folder a.txt. So if I do the tree now, you can see that the file is there, right? And it also, if I do a git status, let's do it in full this time, you can see that this appears as an untracked file, as we did exactly before. But now let's see that we want to be more clever about what gets tracked and what doesn't get tracked. Say that we want to add a bunch of files here, but they don't need to be committed. So one way could be to add a gitignore file, right? That contains the name of, for example, the folder, if nothing that happens in that folder should be tracked. Okay, so the way we would do that is then add the name of the folder in a new file called gitignore. One way to do it could be with, for example, echo, and the name of the folder is folder, actually. And we're gonna put that in a new file called .gitignore. So let me clear this up. So now if I do the tree of this repo, you can see that I have a file here in folder. Also, you don't see the .gitignore because I didn't use, let's see if the flag A works here. Yeah, it does indeed. So with A, I can see not just the visible files, but also hidden files and folders. So that's why I'm seeing inside the .git repository, which is not that interesting to me right now. What I wanted to show is that I have this file called .gitignore. And we could cat on it, so we could do cat.gitignore to see what it contains, and it contains the name folder which we just added. So why do we do that? Well, now git status shows that the file gitignore isn't tracked, but notice how the file A inside the directory folder doesn't appear, and that's because we are ignoring the entire folder. So there you go. Let's add the gitignore file to the index, to the commit, to the git repo. So git add.gitignore. Now if I show you the status, it should be listed among the files to be committed in the next commit. So now we do a git commit -m, let's say add folder, the directory folder to gitignore. Okay, now the status should show nothing. It's nothing to commit, right? But the tree should show still the file A, because it is in our working tree, but it's not part of the Git repository. So if we say now we push this to GitHub, that file will not show up on GitHub. And that also means that I could change the file A. So if I do cat on the file folder a.txt, nothing appears there because I haven't added any content to that file. But I could add something. Let's say that I echo, let's say hello inside that file. So let's pass a string hello inside that file. So if I now cat the file, you will see the string hello in it. So, okay, I modify the file. What would you expect to happen if I do a git status? Well, the status should be still clean, because although the file a.txt inside folder has changed, that file is not being tracked by Git. So that means that like any change that we do to it will be not in the Git index. So it's not going to reflect in this repo unless we remove it from the file .gitignore, which we could do. We could remove the file .gitignore. Let's say git let's git remove .gitignore status. So as you can see now, when I remove the gitignore file, right, the file of a.txt now appears as a file that is untracked. So now Git notices it, but it's just telling me, hey, I noticed this file, but I don't know anything about it other than it exists in your working tree, but I'm not going to keep track of it unless you explicitly tell me to do so. So, but that's not really what I wanted to do, because say that I do want to keep that gitignore file. So let's undo what I just did. So I removed the gitignore file. So let's now reset the head. So let's do this git reset head to unstage this file. So let's do just that. Git reset head and the name of the file .gitignore. And now if I do a git status, now you see that the file gitignore went from being listed as the files that were going to be committed to just not being not staged for commit. So what we could do now is to undo this even more, we could do just git checkout, right? So we can do a git checkout and the name of the file to get the state of that file as it was in the previous commit, so as it was in the head. So I could do git checkout and the name of the file. So I can or cannot use this separator. It's kind of nice to use it, so let's use it now. Gitignore. So with that, I've recovered the state of gitignore as it was in the previous commit. So in the previous commit had that file, right? So if I do a git status now, you will see that it's all clean. Why? Because I've recovered the gitignore, and gitignore explicitly said that the file A inside the folder wasn't tracked, right? So I'm back to having a completely clean Git repository. So what else could we explore? Let's see this scenario. Notice that the gitignore file was added after the file.txt inside the folder had already been added to the Git history. So if I touch the file A, as you saw before, the change is not tracked by Git, so I don't see any change. So there's nothing there. So let's for a demonstration, do another echo. This before we did hello, and now we do world, and let's pass that now as an extension to the file folder a.txt. So if we now cut on the file, you can see that it says hello, as it said before, and world. But to confirm what I was the point that I was trying to make, if I do a git status, the git status should still be clean because that file is not tracked. But what happens if I touch the file.txt? That's a different story. If I do echo hello on the folder file.txt. Now, if I do a git status, that file does appear as modified. And you may wonder why if the entire folder is added to the .gitignore file, right? So if you do gat.gitignore, you say that the entire folder is being ignored. So why do I get a git status where the modifications to a file included in that ignored folder is modified, right? So the reason is because Git already knew about that file before you added to the gitignore file. So how do you assume that that file will stay unchanged all the time? So the way you do that is with the command git update index and the flag assume-unchanged, and I'm guessing that this will assume unchanged. It will take the name of the file, which is folder file.txt. There you go. So git status now shows clean. Because I have explicitly said to Git that file called inside folder in the file is called file.txt should always be assumed as unchanged. So that's the way that a file that is already included in the Git index that has been committed before can be ignored even if the file has been added to gitignore after it has first been managed by Git. So that's how you would keep, that's another way how you would keep the history of your project clean. If you decide, after you have already committed a file, if you decide that file should actually be ignored. And if you wanted to undo, I think the flag is no assume-unchanged, let's say. There you go. So let's do now, so if you want to revert, so if you want to start tracking that file again, then you do no assume-unchanged, right? So that reverses it. So git status now should show that file, as you see here, right? Because this it is no longer part of the the list of files that are listed as assume-unchanged. So one other way in which it's common to kind of clean what you have here is to just check out files as we did before from the index, or from any other state in your repo. But let's say that we know what that file looked like in the head, and we want to check that out, and basically to kind of overwrite with the file. As it is now in the working tree, we want to overwrite it with the file as it is in the index, so in the latest commit. So let's start first by doing a git log again. So what I'm trying to say is that the file, for example, this file in the folder, and the file is called file.txt. From the master branch, for example, say that that's the file as we want it, and now we have it modified, right? So we could do a git diff to see what happened, and what happened is that the file now contains a string hello that it didn't include before. So one way we could recover its state as it was in the branch master could be with git checkout. We say the revision is master, and then the file is folder file txt, right? So with that command, if you do a git status now, you should get a clean status because the file no longer appears as modified. It has been, on the working tree, it has been overwritten with the state of that file as it was a commit ago on the state that is pointing to which the branch master is pointing, right? So if we now do a cat on folder file, the string hello should no longer be there. It should be an empty file, and there you go. That's exactly how it is. So okay, just to review, I think we have covered a bunch of ways in which you can keep your repository clean. First, by creating branches. The second, by using the command git clean, in particular with the flag -i, which stands for interactive. Then we also saw that at the end we saw that you can clean also your working tree by overwriting the state of any current file with its state as it was in some commit from the Git history. So in this case, I checked out a file from the master branch, and with that I overwrote the working tree of that file. Then I also showed that sometimes if you know that an entire directory shouldn't be monitored by Git, you can add that folder or specific files, but you can do it at the level of a folder with the command. By adding the folder to the gitignore file. So you create a file called gitignore with the name of the folder, and then I also showed that if you already have been tracking with Git some files inside that folder, what will happen is that changes to files that were already managed by Git will show up as modifications. And then if you want those files to be absolutely ignored, then you have to tell Git to assume that they are unchanged. And the way you do that is with git update branch, git and update index, with the flag update, with the flag assume-unchanged. And to revert that and to start tracking files that have been assumed unchanged, then you use the flag no assume-unchanged. So to undo what you did with assume-unchanged, you do it with no assume-unchanged. So that was a lot about how to keep Git repository clean. I hope some of that is helpful to you.